The morning of my wedding, I woke and my left hand was gone. Not numb, not asleep, just absent, as if it had refused to participate in the day. I lay in the hotel bed for 4 minutes, flexing fingers I could not feel, watching them move like someone else's. Of course today. I pressed the call button for my nurse aide, Dina, who had flown from Portland to help me dress. While I waited, I followed the exercises Dr. Marcus Webb had taught me in the first 3 years after my diagnosis, when panic attacks used to swallow my mornings. I breathed in for 4 counts. I named 5 things I could see: the ceiling fan, the white carnation on the nightstand, my wedding dress on the closet door, the morning light slipping through the curtains, Denna's tote bag by the window. I breathed out for 6. By the time Dina knocked, sensation had returned to 3 fingers. By the time she helped me into my dress, all 5. My mother never understood this. She never tried. This is not drama. Not performance. This is Tuesday, or in this case, Saturday. The most important Saturday of my life. My nervous system was doing what it always does, negotiating rules I did not write and cannot override. My name is Claire Reiner. I am 32 years old. I have remitting multiple sclerosis. Diagnosed at 23 after 18 months of symptoms my family spent 18 months explaining away. I am a licensed occupational therapist. I have a master's degree. I own a condo in Portland, Oregon, bought without help from anyone. I have a best friend named Josephine, who once drove 4 hours through a snowstorm to sit with me during a bad episode because I told her where I was. I have a balcony garden where I grow tomatoes that are never quite perfect, but improve each year. On the morning of October 14th, I was 3 hours away from marrying Daniel Okafor, the most patient, infuriating, and kind man I have ever known. In a ceremony at Hartwell Chapel in Eugene, Oregon, the 7 people who loved us. My mother had been trying to ruin it for 8 months. I should explain my mother not to excuse her, because there is no excuse but to clarify that she is not a monster in the way stories imagine. She is more complicated and more exhausting. She has spent her adult life using other people's suffering as evidence of her own failure. Barbara Reiner grew up the oldest of 5 children in a home where illness meant weakness, weakness meant burden, and burden was the worst thing you could be. Her mother, my grandmother Iris, whom I adored and who died when I was 17, used to say Barbara had been born apologizing for taking up space. She worked herself raw to be invisible in her needs and enormous in her usefulness. When she married my father and had 2 daughters, she transferred that framework wholesale onto us. My sister Tricia escaped early. Athletic, high-functioning, allergic to nothing, afraid of nothing, she built a life in Dallas that demanded almost nothing from our parents emotionally. She was the model. I was the deviation. When my symptoms began at 22, fatigue so heavy some mornings I could not lift my arms above my head, visual disturbances, pain moving through my body like weather, my mother's first response was suspicion, not concern. I remember her standing in my apartment doorway the first time she checked on me after I'd called in sick to work for 3 days. She looked at me in bed, narrowed her eyes, tightened her mouth, and said, "You look fine to me." That was the beginning. Over the next 18 months, as I saw 11 different doctors, got 11 different non-answers, and finally landed in Dr. Webb's neurology practice at OHU, my mother built a parallel narrative. In her version, I was depressed, anxious, avoiding adulthood, seeking attention, punishing my parents for something unnamed, making my problems my personality, and her favorite, the chair I used was a prop. The chair was not a prop. It was a medical device that allowed me to attend 4th of July barbecues, instead of staying home. It gave me hours of energy I used to spend just trying to remain upright. Energy I redirected into my patients, friendships, garden, and life. The chair was the best decision Dr. Webb and I ever made together, and my mother hated it, not for the illness, but for what it revealed. I met Daniel at a continuing education conference 4 years ago. He is a physical therapist, which meant he understood immediately and completely in ways I had stopped expecting. On our second date, he asked detailed questions about my treatment protocol and listened to the answers without trying to fix anything or suggest alternatives. I cried in the car on the way home, not from sadness, but from relief at being treated like an expert on my own body. We dated for 2 years before he proposed, in my kitchen on a Sunday morning while I was repotting a balcony tomato, wearing clothes I would have been embarrassed to be seen in publicly. He said he had been waiting for a moment when I wasn't trying to be anything, because that was the version of me he wanted to promise himself to. I said yes before he finished the sentence. My mother's response was, Are you sure he knows what he's signing up for? Daniel smiled at her with the calm of a man who has spent a decade helping people through pain. I do, he said. That was the point. She did not find it charming. Over the following 8 months of wedding planning, she inserted herself in subtle ways, not through confrontation but erosion. Comments about the wheelchair, the venue's aesthetics, questions about guests' comfort with accommodations. 2 weeks before the wedding, she suggested casually that I might consider walking just the aisle since everyone would be watching. When I told her I would walk only when my neurologist cleared me, she went quiet, storing the disagreement rather than releasing it. I should have known she was planning something, Josephine warned me. She has known my mother for 10 years and has a forensic understanding of her patterns. 2 days before the wedding over tea, Joe said, she's going to do something at the ceremony. I don't know what, but she's been too quiet. I told her she was projecting. I thought my mother would not disrupt my wedding in front of 87 people and a pastor she attended church with. Josephine gave me a patient look. She was right. I was wrong. I should update the record. Dr. Marcus Webb had been my neurologist for 9 years. 61 years old, silver-haired, precise, with a stillness I associate with those who have spent decades delivering bad news. He does not offer false comfort. In our first appointment, when I was 23, terrified, with a folder of tests that had redefined my life, he looked at me and said, "This is a hard diagnosis. You're going to have a hard year. I'm going to tell you everything I know, and we're going to make a plan." I have been making plans with Marcus Webb ever since. I invited him to the wedding not for sentimentality, though there is sentiment. You do not spend 9 years navigating a chronic illness with someone without sentiment accumulating. He came to my wedding because Daniel and I decided the people present would be those who had truly shown up for us. Marcus Webb had shown up. He had called me back on a Sunday evening when my vision failed in my right eye. He adjusted my treatment 3 times over 9 years as my condition evolved. He wrote the letter to my employer protecting my job and health insurance during a bad relapse. Once I called him at 11 p.m. when the weight of my diagnosis felt unlivable, and he stayed on the phone for 40 minutes without making me feel like a burden. He sat in the 3rd row on the groom's side in a charcoal suit. His wife, Eleanor, was beside him. They had driven from Portland that morning. He was not meant to be part of what happened next. The ceremony began at 2 o'clock. I waited in the vestibule with my father, who existed somewhere between my mother's position and mine, not defending, not attacking, a middle space formed by conflict avoidance as loyalty. He looked uncomfortable in his tuxedo, more uncomfortable about what was coming. The processional music started. Through the doors, I heard the shuffle of 87 people rising to their feet. I could hear Daniel at the front of the chapel, his face one of my reliable studying thoughts, the way he concentrates on what he cares about, the line between his brows, absolute focus. I thought, I get to marry that face in 4 minutes. My mother appeared, moving with her particular velocity when she has decided on a course of action. She wore the pale blue dress she had agonized over for 6 months. From a distance, she looked composed, emotional, proud. She walked directly to my wheelchair and grabbed the handles. "Give me a moment," she said to my father, stepping back. "You are walking down this aisle." "Mom, let go of the handles. This is your wedding day. You are going to walk." Her voice cracked louder now, past the threshold of the private, heads turned near the entrance. The wedding coordinator, Patrice, appeared, frozen in horror. "You've embarrassed this family long enough. Get up and walk like a normal person." My father's voice, useless as always, offered nothing. My mother yanked the wheelchair backward. The angle was wrong. It tilted. I had no warning and was on the floor. The stone of Hartwell Chapel vestibule is cold even through ivory lace. Denna was behind me. Josephine, inside, did not yet know. My father made a sound that was not quite a word. My mother's voice became strange, distant, distorted. Then the chapel door opened. Later, Josephine would tell me it looked like a pause in the music, a hesitation. She saw through the door that I was on the floor. She stood, recognized the look on Marcus Webb's face, and sat back down. Dr. Webb crossed the vestibule in 6 steps, crouched beside me, and conducted a rapid assessment. Eyes, response, orientation. "Claire, are you injured?" "I don't think so," I said, voice steadier than I expected. "Hip, maybe. Don't move yet." He stood and turned to my mother, still holding the wheelchair handles. She had not fully processed that she had put her daughter on the floor of a church. Dr. Webb held up his phone. "I'm Dr. Marcus Webb. I'm Claire's neurologist. I've been her treating physician for 9 years. I've recorded the last 45 seconds on this phone. What you just did constitutes physical assault of a disabled person under Oregon statute. The vestibule fell silent. Through the open chapel doors, 87 guests who had stood for the processional now faced the wrong direction, witnessing this. My mother said, "I just wanted her to—" "Doctor," Webb interrupted, "I need you to step back from the wheelchair." 8 words, quiet, absolute. He stepped back. Dina and Dr. Webb helped me from the floor. My hip was bruised but functional. Eleanor Webb appeared with calm competence, pressed a travel ice pack to my hip while Dina straightened my dress. Josephine materialized, positioned herself beside me silently. Daniel waited at the altar, informed by his best man that I was okay. My mother sat against the vestibule wall, my father beside her. Neither spoke. Dr. Webb spoke quietly with the coordinator and venue staff, explaining documentation and legal follow-up. My mother looked reduced, not pitiful, a structure of belief dismantled in 45 seconds of video on a neurologist's phone. "Doctor," Webb returned to me. "How are you feeling?" "Realistically, my hip will hurt tomorrow. I want to get married." He almost smiled. "Then let's get you married." We delayed the ceremony by 18 minutes. The pastor quietly announced a medical pause. Everyone complied. When the doors reopened, the processional music restarted. The guests stood, and Daniel was at the altar, calm, ready. I wheeled myself down, arms shaking from adrenaline. Josephine in the front row cried silently. My aunt, father's sister, touched my hand as I passed. At Daniel, he crouched to eye level, held my hands and said softly, "I heard you hit the floor." "I'm okay," I said. "I know you are," he replied. "You always are. I just needed you to know I heard it." We were married at 2:31 p.m. on October 14th. The ceremony unfolded exactly as planned. Our readings, our vows, the song Josephine sang, moving 3/4 of the room to tears. My mother did not stay for the reception. She and my father left during the delay. Dr. Webb's documentation was formally noted. The reception, however, was extraordinary. The food, the toasts, Josephine's 7-minute toast with a visual aid, Daniel laughing, my colleague Renata dancing until midnight, and an 11-year-old patient named Marcus sending a drawing of a woman in a wheelchair with a man standing beside her, words above in large uncertain letters. "Congratulations, Amaris Okafor." Daniel and I danced twice, once to our chosen song, again to a slow song I did not recognize. We held hands and swayed. Josephine watched, arms crossed, expression multifaceted. "This is what I have. This is real." Daniel and I spent our honeymoon in New Mexico, his idea and the right one. Low-altitude accessible trails, excellent food, and evenings with a light that transformed the landscape, genuinely restorative. My hip healed fully within 10 days. I had one minor flare in December, managed at home with rest and my existing medication protocol, calling Dr. Webb as a precaution. He returned my call within 2 hours, as he always does. I returned to work in November, taking on 2 new patients, teenagers with conditions demanding the combination of medical knowledge and human patience I have spent 9 years cultivating. Working with them is the best part of my day. My balcony garden has tomatoes again, not quite perfect yet, but improving. Josephine is being promoted at her architecture firm, and I try to convince her to celebrate without downplaying it, her usual mode. We maintain a standing Sunday call, unbroken for 7 years. The legal situation with my mother remains unresolved. I have decided to stop pretending otherwise. What I know, documentation exists. A neurologist who is a mandated reporter does not equivocate. A family law attorney has reviewed the video. I am living with questions about accountability, what it looks like, what I want it to look like, and whether those align. I have asked Dr. Webb not as my doctor, but as someone who has observed my life closely for 9 years. He does not dictate. In our last appointment, he said, "Whatever you decide, it should be what gives you the life you want to live, not what punishes them, not what absolves them, what gives you your life." I am thinking about that. At the end of this, the thing I spent so long unsure how to say is this. The wedding was not saved by the moment alone. The moment mattered, yes. Dr. Webb standing up mattered. Documentation matters. Legal accountability matters, whatever form it takes. But the wedding was saved by everything that came before. 9 years of appointments, honest conversations, treatment plans built on truth rather than someone else's comfort. It was saved by Josephine driving 4 hours in a snowstorm. By Daniel asking detailed questions on our second date and listening. By Dena traveling with an ice pack she may not have expected to use. By Renata, who danced until midnight. By Marcus, the 11-year-old, who drew me a crayon picture. By my aunt, who touched my hand as I wheeled past. By 87 people who sat back down and waited, then stood again when the music restarted. It was saved by every choice I made over 9 years to build a life around people who treated my reality as real. My mother called it embarrassing, spent years calling it embarrassing. I have reflected these past 4 months on what I would say to her if she called. My conclusion: there was never anything embarrassing about it. Only truth. The truth, the wheelchair, the diagnosis, the ice packs, the bad days, and the tomatoes that are not quite perfect has given me the exact life I am living. I would not trade it. Not even the floor. Not even the floor. If you navigate chronic illness alongside people who do not believe you, know this. Disbelief is not diagnosis. Keep your records. Keep your doctors. Keep the people who show up. Build your life around what is true, not convenient for someone else to believe. And if anyone tells you your wheelchair is a prop, I hope you have a Marcus Webb in the third.